Hi, welcome back to Career Marketing Podcast. We have my girlfriend, as you can tell, the most excited guest out of the four we've had. I almost said out of all, but I mean, if it's a single digit number, you might as well say it. We got the future owner of Lunar Suds here. Can you tell people about Lunar Suds and when it's coming?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, my name is Crissie. Failed to mention that.
You
Um,
go by Corey's girlfriend.
all right. So, one of my biggest dreams is to own my own handmade soap slash tea, coffee, cafe style something, right? And I always thought, it'll be pushed off 5, maybe 10 years from now. When I have a more established career and I have money. But seeing as Corey has began his own business relatively, what was it, about a year ago?
August 27th.
Um, I'm like, you know what? I might as well. And I think also seeing the other podcast guests and them talk about their businesses, how they got started, and also I was there for the Nerdscape podcast. Um, so just those experiences inspired me to go ahead and get started. And it won't be for probably another year because I am a junior in college right now. So I'm waiting until about the time I graduate to really get things in motion. But basically, it's going to be called Lunar Suds. It's a kind of the name is a play on my name. My actual first name is Crescenta, and I love
Tell them how to spell that. Tell them how to spell it.
Crescentia. It's not that
It's
difficult.
difficult.
It's not. Uh, but I love moon related things because of that. And we were talking about it one night and we were just throwing back and forth names that my business could be. And I came up with Lunar Suds. And, we were laughing about it. But I was like, that's actually a really good name. It kind of, it has a little ring to it. So yeah, that is my prospective business. I do not have anything yet, but I am making plans. I do have some ideas of what I want. I'm trying to focus mostly on as natural of ingredients as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick, and it affected my ability to smell things correctly. So anything that's like super artificially scented, it just smells horrible. It smells off, I can tell. But things that are more naturally scented is much better. Anything like actually floral, or like vanilla scents, those are fine. So that's what I'm wanting to focus on is more naturally scented stuff and or good sourced ingredients. So, but we'll see. We'll see where we go with that within the next year.
Speaking of lunar suds, I think we should talk about golden leaf. Golden leaves. I think it's golden leaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my favorite tea shop already, by the way. Only been there once. But we went there and we were. She has a whole bunch of soaps and teas and lotion and coffee, which we went there for the coffee, right? But we settled with the tea and the coffee and soaps and bath bombs and lotion. It was just great. So, can you talk about for the people who haven't been to Golden Leaf yet or Golden Leaves, the way it's set up inside, the aesthetic and the different type of soap she has. Can you tell me what kind of influence or what kind of the look your shop would be compared to that?
Sure. So I didn't know what to expect going in. Of course, I thought that it would. None of the shops in Richmond Mall are very big, so
Mm-hmm.
you didn't. You would kind of think that it was mostly soap, tea, coffee stuff, of course. But you walk in, and like the entryway, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
one of the main areas. It's all of her soap and candle and body products. Oh, and it smells so good. So good. And you have the front desk, and you can see some of the things that the products that she's working on curing on the front desk too, which is really cool to see. What's her name? Samantha, right?
Samantha.
Yes, and she is so nice. She's so warm and welcoming, and really and picked up conversation. You could tell she's really busy.
And a nerd.
Oh yeah, definitely a
Definitely a
nerd. If you're into like Harry Potter,
Yeah,
Game of Thrones,
we
those
talked
kinds of
about
things.
that for a while.
Yeah. So, but she's really welcoming, and I think that that is definitely a perk with any business. But she has a really good selection of products, and can cater to just about anybody, I think. And then you have like on the left side is where you see like her teas and her coffees and in the packages. And then in the back area is where the actual cafe is, and it's so pretty. It's very different from the front area. So the front area is like really well lit, but the back area is more of like a dimmed kind of really cozy ambiance to it. And she has all of her tea jars in the back, and I don't know, it's just so nice. It's a very nice place to go, and the tea was delicious, of course. I love both coffee and tea, but I don't know, it was really good, and that she made sure to mention that it's a collaboration. I'm not stealing anything that she has created, but it is definitely, seeing her shop gave me inspiration for what I do want, and that's kind of exactly what I do want. Is like there's an area for the products, and then there's an area for the cafe, and I don't know what that will look like in the future, but yeah, it definitely helped with some inspiration.
That's one of the more impressive things I noticed about Samantha was the instant collaboration. Even though you guys are selling the same product,
Yeah.
and she collaborated with Nursecape to make Nursecape's what, the candles. I think they're,
It was a candle and
yeah,
bath bombs too.
candle and bath bombs, which is super cool, man. And I like to see more of that. So whenever you get into it, and not even if you have a shop, maybe e-commerce, but you'll still be based around maybe Lexington, Richmond, Berea, somewhere around here, right? In theory.
In theory.
In theory, okay. So how do you see yourself trying to collaborate with some of the local owners around here?
Well, I think one thing that's really important is sourcing. And something that I do want to focus on is just having a really good source for materials and products. And obviously, we don't have any like coffee fields in this area. But I think what could happen is maybe a collaboration of like a theme, kind of like Nerdscape and Golden Leaves did. Or, I can ask like, hey, I'm starting this business. Could you give me pointers on what you guys do? I think that that's important. And yes, I understand competition is a thing. You want people to come to your business and give you business. But two, I think that it's important that when you are in a similar business as somebody, that it is okay to take inspiration. It's like they're established, they're doing really well, and it's a way to look up to your competition. And I think that it helps, it makes that business look even more inviting and friendly, and the people who own it to be more friendly when they're willing to give you pointers and answer your questions, and don't give away all your secrets. But I don't know, I guess that's probably what I would do anywhere that I've officially set up, of course, if I have a shop, that is. But even with e-commerce, like I know that if I had a question about soap, I could ask Samantha. She literally makes it. All I'd have to do is maybe email her, and she would answer my question. But yeah. I mean, you have information right there. You might as well take advantage of it. Don't be scared.
Yeah. Not even a business owner, she knows this. That's impressive. And None of my influence. So don't even think that all on her own because no marketing company collabs with each other at all. Not a single one. But so let's go back to the college student part. So when you were first coming to Berea as a college student, did you ever envision the fact that okay, maybe 3 years, even 5 years down the line, I will most definitely be trying to make soaps?
No. So like you mentioned, I go to Berea College. Reason, I'm broke. But going into college, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to do the pre-med route, because, of course, it's a stable position for the most part. You make decent money to live on. And, of course, it sounds cliche, but I want to help people. I am a people person. So I came to the orientation with my mom and my siblings and saw the curriculum for the nursing and I said no because I have worked myself so hard in high school to do really well to get into a good position, and the college itself has a really good name, and I know that the curriculum, the education itself is a really good opportunity, and it has a lot of good resources to help me get places. So I don't have to just go with the default option of nursing, okay, because it's a stable job. I had options. So I was pretty much undecided, and then I took a few child and family studies courses here and there, and then I think because you have to decide your major by spring of sophomore year. And so time was ticking. And I was like, okay, let's see. COVID hit my spring of my freshman year. And I was in general psychology. And I'm like, okay, I have to make a decision within a year's time. Let me just do psychology. And I wanted a minor in something, but I didn't know what. And I had taken, like I said, a couple of child and family studies courses. So I'm like, okay, I think this is what it'll be. So come spring of my sophomore year, I officially declare that I'm a psych major, CFS minor. And then my advisor for my minor talked to me and said, that a lot of students will just do a double major of psychology and CFS, laid out what the curriculum would look like. And it's pretty easy. I know it's kind of taboo in the education or academic settings to say easy.
Definitely.
But that's the truth. In terms of what else I could be doing, it is. It really was it wasn't much different from the work I would be doing if it was a minor.
Well, you said that it's super easy, right? Well, not super
Not
easy,
super, no.
but it's easier than the med route, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being with you throughout this whole journey, there's been some struggles in this curriculum. So even with a curriculum you view as easy, for people not even just going to Berea, just some college students may see this. Young people watch podcasts, so it's nice to get some of this information out. Even through a curriculum that you said was easy, describe some of the struggles that people could be going to, especially in Berea.
Okay, so to preface this, there are Berea graduates who have come back and said that graduate school is no different in terms of difficulty than Berea as undergrad. Because it is a very demanding and extensive curriculum. You have to have 20 credits outside of your major. So if you're a nursing major, that's about, I don't know off the top of my head, a lot. You're taking basically full credits, at least 4 credits in terms of nursing every semester. So you have that plus 20 credits outside of your major. And because it's a liberal arts college, it's covering different kinds of perspectives. So you have like African studies, Appalachian studies, women gender studies, you have international studies, you have Western. You have religion that you have to do. You have general writings courses that you have to take. And, oh, you have human health performance courses that you have to take. And yeah, and we also do the labor contract because it is no tuition. They require you to have at least a 10-hour position throughout the time that you're there. And of course, you can change whatever job you're doing. You can do a 15-hour, a 20-hour. You can pick up a 0 to 5. You don't have to stay in the same position. I've done, I think, at least 4 or 5 different jobs now. And you will not leave Berea the same person you came in as. And that's not just through the personal growth and maturity growth that you get just normally. It's if you're going to be serious about it and you really want to do well, you have to learn time management. You have to learn how to balance work and personal, how just having fun.
Because all the freshmen, what they say, like 50% of them drop out?
About, yeah. Like, there is a high dropout rate in terms of the freshmen. And that's not, listen, I am not here to preach that Berea is the best university in the world. Absolutely not. If it's anything that people should know by now is that college is a business transaction. Okay? It doesn't matter how gold-plated it tries to make itself out to be. Don't be naive. It's not all peaches. And there are some, yeah, it is hard. And it can be very frustrating, especially in the financial aspect, because even though they pay for our tuition, I still have expected family contribution depending on my FAFSA and all this other stuff.
Do you know what happened? Because your first year, you don't owe anything. But the consecutive years for everyone was like, oh, we owe something all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So do you know how that happened?
So after looking at it, because yeah, my freshman year I didn't owe any money back, and they do that mostly to keep you, but the next year it did jump up because what they do is they take your tax return information from the year before, and I worked before I came to college, so let me think, it was my junior year, right? Sophomore, no,
of high
school? Fall of junior year.
Of high school?
College. Yeah. I'm just trying to get my numbers straight.
Oh.
So my EFC jumped up a few $1,000s. And I was like, whoa, what happened? And it's because on my FAFSA, I included my own tax information because I had to. So this is a complaint from a lot of students, I'm sure across the nation, is like, it's not really accurate according to what your income is at the time. And I was not, obviously, I wasn't working an actual job at the time in college. I'd only done 8 months in a retail, and it jumped it up that much simply because the number said, oh, you earned an extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And of course, if you're whoever's information you're using, if their income goes up, of course that's going to jump it up as well. So that's why that's what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they don't leave you in the dark, though. I mean, a lot of people will just be like, you got to take out loans, but that's not necessarily the case. They do give you the option of a student parent payment plan where they will take a percentage, usually half of your paycheck, and then your parent will make up the difference of that. And you have to have it paid off before the next registration for classes, or you can't register for classes. So you really only get maybe 2.5 to 3 months out of the semester to pay it off. I mean, it's a lot. Mine is usually about $2,000 a semester. So yeah, I have to have that paid off in like 2 months. But I have not had to take out any student loans the entire time I've been here. So let's hopefully I keep it that way.
That's the bonus of going to Berea. So, how did you choose child family studies? I know you're double majoring, but you really want to do child family studies, right? So,
Mm.
can you tell your journey about going to child family studies and what affected the reason you chose that?
Right. So, I took a couple of those, like I said before, a couple of courses in that. One was nature education in young children. So I took a course where I learned about the benefits of nature in like toddlers, basically, infants to toddlers. And then I found that really interesting. We got to go down to the child development lab a couple of times and play with the kids. This was also spring of my freshman year when COVID hit. But I don't know. That was a really fun class. And then I also took early intervention of young children, of infants. Infants. Yeah, early intervention of infants. And that was interesting. We got to do a project where we created our own classroom based off of Reggio, which is a type of learning for young kids. And it was those couple of classes made me realize it's like I'm already a psych major, but I was actually kind of behind in taking psych classes because of COVID and the way the college adjusted the curriculum to that. And so I was mostly taking CFS classes. And I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. It's fun. And I'm really thinking about things and I'm learning a lot about little kids. And I'm like, I think that I want to do this. I don't know what yet, but I think I'm going to pursue child and family studies and we'll see where that goes. And now I am a family studies concentration. And after undergrad, I'm going to go get my master's eventually to specialize in alcoholism, social work. There's some personal, experiences that have influenced that. Not me. I'm not an alcoholic. But my family has a long history of drug addiction. And also, I come, my brother and my grandmother, we come from low income, you know. Um, so I think poverty too, working with people dealing with addiction and living in poverty. Um, because I think that they don't get enough help. They don't get the attention they deserve. There's just a lot happening in these people's lives that I think too there's just a lot of misunderstanding and not only between for them but the people outside looking in. You don't understand addiction unless you go through it. So I'll just see what I can do with that. But that's the goal anyway. And of course, being a psych major too, I have a better understanding of behavior and how people learn and what influences what people do. So I'm just going to use all of that to see what I can do.
Do you mind talking about some more of your background? I mean, not too much detail if you don't want to go into it, of course, but your start to life, because you've explained to me before how some of the start to your life has influenced the fact that you want to help certain groups in America right now. So, if you don't mind going into some detail, not too deep if you don't want to, about how that's influenced your fight for child family studies.
Yeah. So I was born to a teen mom, 15, and she was struggling with addiction and of course didn't have the most stable household or home, you know. And even before I was born, addiction ran strong in my family. So when I was 3 years old, My great aunt and uncle adopted me. She, my birth mother, told them, if you don't take her, she's going to the state. So they adopted me, and very grateful for that. So they're mom and dad. And growing up, it was fine. I wasn't really exposed to it. There was a lot of unanswered questions, of course, and confusion of I don't understand why this happened. But it is what it is. And then I had a family member who started struggling with addiction, a family member that was close in vicinity, and I ended up living with them for a while. And seeing that in person was eye opening, and it's scary. And you feel like there's nothing you can do to help. You're only a kid, and you're in the meantime you're trying to earn money for yourself, and you're about to graduate high school, and you're trying to go to college, trying to balance all of these things, and meanwhile feeling responsible for them. So knowing my experience, and of course how lucky I was to get adopted and not end up in the system, but I do know people who were in the system, and it's asking questions. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I mean it. Hearing all of those experiences, you could call them stories, but I feel like stories doesn't do it justice. They're experiences that shape people either for the better or for the worse, and I chose to take the better half of it. Some people don't, and I can't save the world, I know that, but if I can save and help just a small pocket of the world, and know that I made a difference in these people's lives and they're doing better, that's enough for me. So,
Can you talk about? Well, you're in a unique position that a lot of people don't really get to experience. You meet some of these people, and you don't really understand what they've been through. And maybe you've had a single mom, single dad, or two-parent household, or divorced household, but it's totally different when you're adopted. So, can you explain how that affected your personality growing up, and help others understand how it may affect other people's personality?
yeah. So, my parents were young when they adopted me, early 20s. Um, and it was, I would say, it's probably a really hard, not really hard decision. Of course, they loved me, they did it with no question. But it's not easy. One, it's not easy to adopt in the first place. There's a lot of things that come with that, um, and which I'll get into that in a second. But for me, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like I probably blocked out a lot of things, a lot of emotions. I remember being very an introverted kid. I didn't like talking about my emotions, how I felt. My mom did her best to try to understand. She gave me like a journal, an outlet to write my feelings in. And it was hard, and I having so many unanswered questions and never understanding why, when my birth mother would say, "Oh, I'm gonna come over and come see you," and she never does. And of course, eventually they put a stop to that because they saw how much it was hurting me. And I mean, after that, what do you do? What do you do? You're never gonna get the answers that you want. Um, so you just try to go through life. You just try to grow up and do what everyone else does. You get a job at 16, you start working and move on with your life. But it's not that easy. I don't even know who my birth father is. Nobody does. And that's not really the fault of my birth mother. she was a kid. She was a kid.
I'm a kid.
Anyway,
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, that's the truth.
here's the way I'm looking at it too, and this is something that I've had to learn is there's no point in blaming. You don't get anywhere blaming. You don't get anywhere harboring ill feelings. Holding grudges.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to. In my situation anyway, I'm looking at her. I don't have any contact with her, simply because it would just not be healthy to. But she came from a really bad place. She chose to stay in the bad place, and you can say, shake my head, like you could have done better. And she can. She's almost 40 years old. She absolutely can do better. But going into the profession that I don't want to go into, you have to look at it at a different angle. You have to understand what is wrong, what's actually wrong. It's much deeper than they're just irresponsible. They just make bad decisions. It's not that simple. So that, looking at it from that point of view, has helped me work through my feelings and towards her specifically.
But isn't it also important to hold some people accountable? I mean, we've all been 15 and 16 now. Thank God we've all lived that far, and a lot of us have had rough lives. That has not ended yet. Russia, gas prices, COVID, Russia, Ukraine. It's hard life right now, and then leading up to adulthood and having a hard life is too much. Russia, Ukraine, but my point is, it's you can understand someone and still hold them accountable and say, hey, even though they were 15, 16, they grew up having a hard life, but there's a lot of people that also choose to do better even before 15 and 16. And you don't have to hold a grudge to hold someone accountable, right? So, is that what you're doing with your mother? Are you holding her accountable too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, she's almost 40 now and still makes bad decisions. And I'm like, okay, listen, at some point you have to be like, I've been hurt enough. I've done enough hurt to myself and to others, but then again, it's like old habits die hard, and that's a terrible excuse for bad actions. But it's true. And nobody has ever held her accountable like that to the point where she's like, okay, yeah, I really need to stop. But you also you have to want it. You can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink kind of situation. You could push them in, but yeah, I am. I'm not, excusing the behavior at all, even to this point. But, I mean, I don't know. I just know that it's not easy. So, in order to ease my own mind and have peace for myself, look at it from there are probably a lot of things that she doesn't understand and questions that she would never got answered, and she never will. And that those kinds of things do affect a person, either for good or for bad. No. What was I going to say? Adoption. Yes, I did want to get on that subject too. So I got very lucky. From that my parents adopted me and loved me and raised me as their own daughter. Mm-hmm. We were family, of course. I'm blood related to my dad. But I think something that probably would have helped me growing up is therapy. And I know people are like, oh, therapy's so expensive. Yeah, it can be. But the benefits of therapy are much more important than the price of it, Mm-hmm. And I think because I had a hard time talking to my parents about what I was going through, maybe having a neutral party who was there to help and to listen and not judge would have really helped me, because I did have some behavioral issues eventually, and this is something that you will find with a lot of adopted children is they have behavioral issues. And it's, can you blame them? It's, they have insecure attachments. They don't know what's going to happen to them next. And there are just a lot of emotions and things that they are trying to work through that they don't know how to. And you have to have patience. You have to have patience. And these are things from my own experience, but also doing research about the topic. And you have to. You have to show them I understand. I mean, I don't necessarily, but I do. It's like we all go through these kinds of things, but showing them that you love them regardless, and showing them that I understand that you came from a really bad place. We just want you to have a loving, happy home, and working with them and not trying to speed the process either. I think that's where, working with a therapist would help, because they will help you get a better idea of the process that you need to be doing. It's not a checklist of things when it comes to helping these kinds of kids. It's not. It's long and it's grueling, and you're hoping that they are wanting to work through it as much as you're trying to help them do it, so yeah, I just wanted to get that bit out there. Absolutely adopt. Absolutely. If you can, and you can provide a great home for kids, do it. And I also encourage, don't just try to adopt infants and babies. That is a very popular thing for people to do because they want to raise the baby as their own. And that's beautiful. I'm not saying don't do that, but also there are a lot of kids, older kids, teenagers who have been in the system their entire lives, who want as much of a happy home and deserve as much of a happy home as those little babies do. Saying it can be, granted, it can be harder to make a connection with an older child. But don't let that scare you away from it. They're your child. You do what you can for them. So.
All right, let's end this podcast on a higher note.
It's over already?
It's been going for a while, trust me.
Oh, okay.
Trust me. You get in that zone. That's why I
Yeah.
try to tell all my podcast guests beforehand. Once you get in the zone with me for 3 minutes with me, and it's an hour gone already. But anyway, let's talk about Lunar Suds one last time.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're projecting what, like April next year, maybe summer. What is your first product going to look like? What are you sending out? What can people look forward to?
Ooh.
What can they lick their chops for?
Okay, no pressure or anything.
No pressure.
So I thought that
Wait,
I'm
on the list.
Yeah.
All right,
Like,
go ahead.
you're my test subject.
Right. If I bounce.
But yeah, I guess my first product, I was looking at just doing something simple. I was thinking of doing maybe 5 different kinds of scents, different kinds of textures, fancy things about them, different benefits, those kinds of things. And so, yeah, that's what it is. I think too, keeping with the crescent moon theme, that all of my soaps are probably going to be moon shaped. I thought that would be cute and unique. So, yeah.
Like, what benefits?
What benefits? Oh, just skin benefits, moisturizing, some exfoliating, those kinds of things. Yeah. Now, here's a disclaimer. I am not a licensed medical professional or a dermatologist.
You're not?
So, Everything I use comes purely from research based on peer-reviewed medical studies about the products. So
It's
just
on the label.
it's on the label.
Oh, Crissie Purcell, owner of Lunar Suds, college
Eventually.
student of 3 years. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. I hope to have you on in 10 episodes.